All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Minecraft with Crimbo. How are you guys doing today? How are you doing? How's your weeks been? I know it's been a while since I posted. Like I said, I'm still hip deep in the day job editing work and doing some shoots and things like that. So it's been busy. It's been busy. I hope you guys have been doing well. I hope the life's been going okay. I hope you've been getting some things done. You know, I hope you've been alive. All right. Well, that said, it's been. I mean, now my videos are all caught up. This is I'm recording this probably a couple of days before I release it. So there's that, and anyway, so it's been a while since I've felt like I've chatted with anyone. Look, I started laying in some paths here. I think I'm going to go with the stone grout layout with a little bit of mossy on the edges here, on the edges, a little gray, mold and grass creeping into the sides. And then, of course, we have some coarse dirt, which may not, it kind of works. I don't know. So is in the brown, but anyway, so really I don't have much to report as far as like what's going on with me or anything because I've just been doing editing. Just a lot of editing projects all piled in at once, and that's always a good thing. So I do have I have limited time to get this video done today. And my brain has been bifurcated, sort of thought process. I've been concentrating on some other things, so I haven't had a lot of time to think about Minecraft. But I did want to get something out and chat with you guys. I do have a topic of the day picked out. Yes, I do. Look at me in the doorway. Oh, we up close and personal. The pathway looks pretty good. You can see. Okay, sort of. I'm just sort of riffing here and just sort of seeing what a path would look like. Kind of. I threw up some walls. I do want to go with this sort of brick and iron bar wall sort of motif, holding back some vegetation. And that's probably in the recording. I don't know how to turn off. Whatever. Anyway, I got an email there. That's what that is. This red brick and iron bar motif sort of holding back some vegetation. And of course, you kind of like walk out here and you're like, okay, yeah, but there's nothing on the other side of it. What is the point of having a little wall there? Which is just something I'm gonna have to figure out as I go, because I'm not really sure yet what's all going out here. I know there's a build either next video or 2 videos from now that there's gonna be a build going up here somewhere that I've already designed. But anyway, this is a little mix it up with a little the pathway edging of the pathway, the boundary of the paths, I suppose. We got some shrubs, some sculpted shrubbery, a little bit of loose grass, spruce fences, little flowers here and there, and it kind of our pathway here kind of degrades down into this other sort of design that kind of I think looks cooler for this sort of little B area here. Anyway, it'll kind of convert back to stone going up this way, and then I got to make paths that go up here to this guy's house, which I haven't even checked on this guy. Where did he? Oh, he's right there. Yeah, it's been a while since I've logged onto this world, but I do have a build for today. Oh man, it's just full. Oh, I did realize. Yes, I realized my error. There is actually a different bit of redstone. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least I can put these together, maybe. So there is a different method of redstone that needs to be used in order to collect the honey bottles. So I am aware of that now, and I don't. Oh, geez. But it is probably it's unlikely that the build that I currently have here, which we can access through here, this is not going to. That's annoying to jump like that. There we go. This build here that I have is not going to work. Like I can't really convert this as it stands into a way to pick up to get the honey bottles. I have to actually separate this redstone line and have a repeater. I'm sorry, I have to have a comparator. We need a signal of 5 coming out of the it just requires an actual different build, which I, of course, being Cry and Mo, I did not research that ahead of time. So this is only for honeycomb. Now, I can, re-landscape this a little bit, and I could come over here and actually, redo maybe the redstone line on this side. What it does, though, it does require these things underneath that leaf block. The dispensers with the shears, or in this case would be the water bottles. They have to go on top of the. Geez, I can't point anything out. They have to go on top of the hives, facing down, and then you have to have basically a comparator coming out of the back of a hive, and then when it reaches like a certain signal level of 5, then you want to trigger the dispenser that would be up on top. So it's a little bit of a hassle. So we'll get to that someday. All right. So what I thought today is, since I don't have time to do an actual edit, like a real, like a genuine edit with different things going on, I thought what I might do is incorporate the topic of the day into. I'll just chat about the topic of the day while I build the build. It's a 2-story build house with a large tower, and my concept for the tower was I really wanted to make a tower that was crooked, that looked like it was leaning over, kind of a, I don't know, like a leaning tower, like a crooked, rickety sort of looking tower. So we'll see in the end if I achieve that. So anyway, okay, so let me get a little terrain started here. A little terraforming. I got to knock down some trees, things like that. With our cool plugin, we can easily get some of the stuff out of the way, and I can get the ground set up for our base, and I'll start building. And we'll chat about today's topic of the day, which is a recommendation, which is a book and a TV series that I want to recommend, and it's called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. All right, so Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is a novel by Susanna Clarke. She's a British author, and it's also a 7-episode miniseries adapted and produced by the BBC. So I originally watched the series on Netflix after I'd read the book, but it's since left Netflix. Maybe it'll come back someday. I don't know. But I ended up buying it on Vudu because I really liked it. I really liked the book. I really liked the show. So let's start with the book. It's a huge book. It's I think it's something like 800 pages or something like that. It's pretty big. I mean, Stephen King's unabridged The Stand, I think, is 1,000 pages. On top of that, the book is written in, I guess, what you'd call a pastiche, like in the style of, or evocative of 19th century British writers, kind of like Jane Austen or Charles Dickens, and it's kind of over the top even for that. I think her intention was to create something that felt like it was written during that particular time frame, right? In that Napoleonic era of England. Now, normally this sort of writing would just kind of turn me off because I wouldn't be able to get into it. I have a hard time even with like Lord of the Rings because the writing is it's just sort of stuffy, sort of thick. I'm not sure how to really put it, but it's hard for me to kind of get through because it's not, I guess, slick and easy to read, I guess. I mean, I can read things that are complicated, but I was super surprised how much I really, really liked the writing in the book. I've read the book twice now, and I just find the writing like just super charming and kind of interesting to parse out, and the rhythm and the rhythm and style and the way that she writes is, I don't know, it's pretty cool. I found it to be pretty cool. The story itself is awesome, and but the writing is kind of like its own separate thing that you can sort of enjoy and trip out over, almost separate from the story itself. All right, so the story. Now, I don't want to give out any spoilers, so I'm not going to touch on any super specific plot points. But I thought the story was very cool. There's 3 or 4 things I really like about the story. The plot is great. I found the plot to be great. The characters are excellent. The world building or world description is pretty fantastic. Even though, it's historically based, like it's, there's such a thing as, there's a genre called historical fiction. And of course, that's telling a fictional story in like an actual historic setting. So I feel like the author specifically tried to make sure everything fit really well, like was his quote unquote historically accurate, as far as like the culture at that time frame in that era and in England and everything, and how people interacted and what the things like modes of transportation and the way houses were. It's just it's like historical fiction, but then there's a fantasy, sort of slash to it. And then the other thing I really liked was the magic system sort of really worked for me. And now when I say magic system, I don't know how many of you or read a lot of books or whatever, or anyway, so I'm just going to babble about this stuff. So there are these terms now for magic systems in fantasy literature that did not exist as far as I know, like 25 years ago or whatever. So there are what's called hard magic systems and soft magic systems. And what these terms mean, if you're not aware, now some of you, forgive me, you may be familiar with this stuff, in which case my blathering is just boring. So whatever. But for those of you that haven't heard of this stuff, hard magic systems, as far as I understand, consist of magic being written, in a story. It's written in a way that's almost like a mechanical device. Like the magic is a mechanical, describable, like set of rules or like laws of physics, or in this case, like laws of magic that sort of govern the magic and how it works. For example, the author Brandon Sanderson, who is now super, super famous, right, for his Kickstarter thing or whatever. He finished the series, The Wheel of Time, when that author, the original author, passed away. Brandon Sanderson was hired to finish like the last 3 books, I think. And he's got his own, he writes a metric ton of fiction all the time. Anyway, he's pretty famous for writing hard magic systems into his books. Kind of like you could take a hard magic system from a book and translate it easily to a video game or a role-playing game. Like there's like, it's almost like you could apply stats to things, and maybe I need 4 emeralds and 1 ruby to put into this device of the magic wand, and that'll make it cast fireballs or whatever, right? Like it's a very specific thing. Soft magic systems are where magic is treated in a much more vague set of terms, so the reader can't really get a grasp of how the magic works, which is its own sort of style. It's its own thing, right? When you kind of, it keeps magic as like a thing that you really can't understand. And I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings is pretty specifically considered a soft magic system. Like the way the magic is written, it's almost hallucinogenic or dreamy, or it's just very vague in like what's actually happening. So the magic in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is kind of a hybrid, but it leans much more towards being a soft magic system. Like the magicians cast magic spells, and the spells are kind of described, but really the methods are kind of vague. The outcomes, the results of the spells are pretty delineated. Like there's like specific things that happen, but it's kind of like that middle ground. Okay, you have a spell, and then you have the result of the spell, but in between those two things, the casting of the spell, you don't really know what's happening or what's making the results happen, or even how they're related to the spell. It's whatever. Anyway, moving on here. I do kind of really like this approach because it sort of creates, in my opinion, for the reader or the viewer, like a sense of discovery, but not full understanding, which I think is, to me, it kind of keeps magic like magical, like it's kind of how I would imagine magic would really work if it existed. So like you might stumble onto some hidden library in some Victorian mansion and find a book of spells. And then you might try one of the spells, like you're going to read the words that are in the book to make this spell happen, but you wouldn't really know what you're doing and you wouldn't know what to expect. And then the magic happens and you're kind of surprised and blown away and it's amazing. And yet you still don't quite understand, what the hell just happened, right? So anyway, there's another theme that weaves its way through the book at some point towards the latter half, and it meshes with this softish magic system really well. And that's the theme or idea of madness. So, insanity or whatever, and how maybe dealing with magic, if it were to really exist, might depend on some level of insanity to grok, if you know what that term is, to comprehend or to understand. Like you might have to go a little insane to be able to manipulate or perform magic. Anyway, this is portrayed in a really cool fashion in the book and in the show. It's actually, I thought it was done really well. Again, I'm being vague because I don't want to put any spoilers out there. Those of you that are familiar with the show or the book, I could mention certain things like, rats being soaked in, tinctures, and you would know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not sure how much to give away, but at one point, one of the magicians is trying desperately to figure some magic out, and he basically decides he might have to make himself mad briefly in order to understand this particular magic that he's after. And the reason he's doing it and how he goes about it, and even there's a little bit of addiction theme in there too. It's just, I don't know, it's just so cool. So that's another thing I really liked about the story, how the two main characters, Jonathan and Mr. Norrell, are called magicians instead of wizards or mages or sorcerers, etc. I think these nomenclatures are mentioned in the book, but generally speaking, anyone in the book's world who practices magic is called a magician. And to me, this is really cool because it's using, a title that's part of our common language. It's like the idea, it's kind of capitalizing on that idea of, we go see a magic show or whatever, and there's a quote unquote magician who's doing something that we know is just illusions, right? But until we know how the illusion works, sometimes you're really like, I don't know how the guy did that. That literally looks like real magic to me, right? So I don't know, the term magician is kind of neat the way it's used in this book. So it doesn't denote like a person who does illusions or tricks. It's actually like, oh, he's a magician. Like, no, he does magic. So he's a magician, right? Anyway, so I also really liked how Susanna Clarke, the author, sort of models the social structure of magicians in her version of 19th century England on the real world, our historical world's the social structure of scientists from back then in the 19th century. Historically, there was a Royal Society of Scientists. And in this book, there's basically the same thing, but it's of magicians. And also in the book, these magicians in this society club, or this Royal Society of Magicians, they call themselves, quote unquote, theoretical magicians, specifically as opposed to what they would call practical, quote unquote, magicians. And Strange and Norrell are practical magicians, meaning they actually practice magic and produce results rather than just theorizing about and discussing magical stuff, which is what this club of sort of upper class, magicians, theoretical magicians do at their club and stuff. They just talk about magic. There's something I really like about taking something that's familiar and real from our history and tweaking it just a bit to create a fantasy element or populate a fantasy setup or whatever. There's something you can it helps the reader really tie in to the story because it has this sort of fundamental foundation that something that actually existed. So you're like, well, yeah, that worked. Oh, so this is just a version of that. And that makes sense, right? It's sort of subconsciously in your brain as you're reading. Anyway, another aspect, kind of a large aspect of the story that's built upon the foundation of existing real world mythology is the use of the legends of fairies. And the author's take is definitely not like the Tinkerbell kind of fairies, which those are cool too. I love Peter Pan and I love Tinkerbell and all that. But Susanna Clarke is using the real world myths and stories of fairies that basically could be said, kind of actually are describing what some religions might call demons or evil beings, right? Like in historic fairy mythology, fairies were definitely not entities you wanted to mess with. They were, supposedly known to trap mortals with convoluted logic. They were known to kidnap mortals, steal children, present deals to people. Basically, making a deal with a fairy was the same thing as making a deal with the devil. So in this story, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, the main antagonist is a fairy, and he's a super cool villain, and he does some pretty heinous stuff. And it's just, again, that sort of vague, soft magic-y sort of like, you don't quite understand. Even the realm of fairy, right? Where this particular antagonist lives, even though he crosses over to our world, even the description of how that the realm of fairy works and how it just feels, I mean, it sounds kind of dumb, but to use the term magical, it feels magical because it's mysterious and you don't really know how it works. But there is this sort of random chaosness to it that results in like, it sounds like, oh, I'd like to go see fairies. Sounds like it'd be amazing, but also I think I'm kind of terrified to go there. So that's pretty cool. Now in the show, I think the actors who play Strange Norrell are perfectly cast. I love the guy who plays Jonathan Strange. In fact, I think all the casting choices were pretty spot on for most of the characters. The book is obviously going to be better than the adaptation, obviously overall, but I feel they did a pretty good job with this one. As far as condensing an 800-page book goes, I mean, it's a huge book, and they did it in 7 episodes, and obviously they had to cut out a lot of things. But yeah, the standout for me is the Jonathan Strange actor. He's just perfect. He sort of encapsulates his personality. Just, I don't know. He has such a cool personality. Anyway, I think the show stands pretty well on its own. So if you were to check that out and disregard the book, I think you'd be fine. The first 2 episodes probably benefit a little bit from a viewer having read the book, but it's not terrible in that way. There's just more depth and understanding of the world and its history of magic and stuff that's set up in the book, but that's kind of to be expected for any adaptation. So there's just so much cool stuff to me about how the magic is dealt with and the alternate sort of history the author has created that for whatever reason, it just really resonates with me. It just worked. And I found the whole package just fascinating and fun and very, very cool as far as like a fantasy book goes. The way the fairy nemesis steals Jonathan Strange's wife and the usage of prophecy, you know what, that's another big thing for me. I'm pretty tired of the whole prophecy gimmick that's used in just a lot of today's fiction. It's just overused, and it's way too much of a fallback as a plot device. Like, oh, it's just a prophecy. The prophecy says blah, blah, blah. You're the child that's going to save the world, whatever. The prophecy component in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is kind of different and in the way that it's used. And it's much more interesting and powerful and kind of amazing by the end of the story. There's a phrase that I think it's in both the book and in the show. And I'm going to paraphrase the phrase because I can't remember it exactly, but it's something like, in quotes, the 2 magicians are the spell the Raven King has been casting. And I think that's so cool. It's also very soft magic categorically, right? Like, you as a person are a spell being cast by someone else. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, how do you mentally make sense of that? And you can't really, but you do understand the connotation of that. It's I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Anyway, so I really like the book. I love the book, and I really like the show. Maybe I really like the show because I read the book. I'm not sure. But I guess this is all just because I wanted to recommend it. If you dig fantasy or maybe urban historical fiction / fantasy, I think you'd find this pretty cool. If you like Neil Gaiman stuff, I think the show would satisfy you pretty well, and the book too, if you want to take on, an 800-pound tome. As far as that goes, I just finished. And, as far as all that goes, I just finished Susanna Clarke's most recent novel, Piranesi. I think I pronounced that correctly. I don't know. And that is definitely different from the Strange and Norrell book. And it's different than pretty much anything I've read to date. It's very, I don't know, she has a way, I don't know, the way that her brain works, the way that her imagination works. She has, a particular style in how she thinks of worlds or views magic or, alternate dimensions, just this kind of stuff. There's something just kind of, it's not super unique. It's just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like tweaked just a bit from like the normal way that people have magic and stuff in the world. So Piranesi has a complete environment that I found pretty fascinating. But it's very much a fairy tale-ish kind of, although that's the wrong connotation. It's not fairy tale-ish, like, as in it's like fairy tales, but it's like fairy tale in the way that a fairy tale, relates to the real world. It's like her world in this Piranesi novel is kind of that way, but in a different direction. I don't know. It's really unique. It kind of, I don't know, like that book, Piranesi, kind of reminds me, the only way I can think of it, I keep thinking of it in terms of art, like the way that certain fantasy art is represented. There's an artist who I think some people think is kind of cheesy, but I actually really like this artist. His name is Michael Parks, Parkes. And I think if you Google Michael Parks, you'll recognize some of his art. You'll be like, oh, I've seen that somewhere, And to be honest, I know I was in a casino in Las Vegas at one point, and they had basically hired a muralist to sort of rip off Michael Parks and like paint all their walls and like in like a really cheesy version of Michael Parks style fantasy stuff. But the real Michael Parks stuff, I find, as far as fantasy goes, it's like the artistic version of Susanna Clarke's writing in a way. I don't know. This is all pretty vague stuff because it's just about feelings. It's just about how I sort of feel about certain things. And it's like the feeling I get when I look at his art, sort of related to the feeling I get when I read Piranesi. Anyway, so I'm just babbling now. I'm just rambling. Anyway, Piranesi is very cool. It's not quite as captivating as, well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I read Piranesi cover to cover in a couple of sittings. It was really cool, but it's definitely, I like the Strange and Norrell, the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell book. Just I have a preference for that particular story over the Piranesi, even though Piranesi I would still recommend. I think it's really cool. It's not, I don't think one of the cool things that I look for in fiction is I want to not be able to anticipate what's going to happen because the author is building so much and using so many of the tropes, right? The normal things that we're used to in fiction. And Susanna Clarke does just that. She will really surprise you with new ideas, but they're not so new. This is what I mean by like, she takes stuff that we're used to, but then does give it a unique tweak or a spin so that it creates this new thing, but you can kind of still relate to it through other fantasy and through other, other stuff you've consumed, other entertainment. Anyway, I don't know. That's just a long rant that I'm doing here. It's not a rant, just a ramble. that's enough. That's enough about this, right? Let's get back to Minecraft. All right. Well, my apologies first off for the completely boring edit of the build. I just don't have time to make a cool edit for this episode. And I didn't really account for how long it was going to take me to build that house. The recordings I have are almost 2 hours to get it to where I ended there with it, and that includes going to get the villager. But anyway, but yeah, my apologies for that. But hopefully, I don't even know if you guys find the recommendation for the book and the show worth listening to for 20 minutes. I was surprised even by that. I did the recording, voiceover for the talking about the show, and I thought, yeah, I'll talk about this for like 5 minutes, 8 minutes maybe. And then I looked at the final recording, and I was like, 22 minutes? I talked about this for 22 minutes? How is that possible? And I don't really know. I don't really know how that's possible. I guess other than the fact that I'm good at rambling, I suppose. Anyway, so we could take a quick final look at the build here. I did a couple things in the interim. I extended this pathway here. So I wanted to just sort of start this, and even doing these paths, doing these paths take a long time, and about 17 shulker boxes all laid out. So anyway, it looks pretty simple for all that. But yeah, we got this down here, kind of blends into this sort of rustic path that kind of changes up, right? I got 2 different style of paths going here. But anyway, so yeah, I got this little guy here. I'm trying a experimenting with some different, little tree sort of things or whatever. I got these lights. I have literally 1 sea lantern left. I think I only own 3 sea lanterns. I do think I'm going to use the sea lanterns as lighting here. I'm not sure about that nether brick fence, but there's no other brick fence. And the wooden fences don't really look great coming off of the walls. So I'm not really sure. I think it would be cool to have like a black fence, like a fence out of blackstone or even deep slate. Even though I know that wouldn't necessarily be illogical, with the way there is, but there's no black. I don't know. I don't know if black would be better or not, or gray. But this isn't, I'm not really sold on, I kind of like this with the sea lantern and the blue trapdoors. I kind of dig that with warped wood. I just don't know about the base. So lamps are a work in progress. I don't know. They might change. They might completely change into a whole different whatever design. But anyway, yeah, I am pretty happy with this tower, the house with the tower. The only thing that's kind of a bummer is that I should have maybe rotated the roof maybe 90 degrees. If you were looking down on it this way, I should have maybe rotated the design of the roof this way, 90 degrees clockwise, so that the curl came out that way. Maybe that would even add more to the idea that it's leaning over. But yeah, this right here, I kind of really enjoy. I think this looks good. Obviously, this hillside's going to get terraformed a little bit, and sort of blocked in with some walls and everything. And once this area in here gets terraformed into whatever it's going to be, we'll have some gardens and some, I don't even know what's going to go out here. Maybe some gazebos or something. But anyway, I really do like this. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm happy with the overgrown look, the sort of dilapidated look of the tower that's sort of leaning over. But of course, we don't get to see the cool roof, unless we're looking at it from this direction, which it actually wouldn't be that big of a deal to go up there and just change the top half of that roof and just rotate it so that the curl was coming towards us here, which means from over there we would have more of a view of the curly roof. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I dig it. I'm not sure about the stairs. It's like literally the only use of purple in there, and I'm actually not entirely sold on that. I might change the stairwell. Like, there's so much purple in here and then this bright patch. I might actually just change this into something gray, I think, to more go with the gray stuff. Even if it was deep slate and just regular stone brick, I think, actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think might be a better, I mean, we have deep slate on the edges, so maybe just the gray stone going up in there might be a better use. But yeah, overall, I think it's pretty cool. You guys let me know what you think. I do, made it all overgrown again, just like everything else in here. I do really like having everything overgrown. It's kind of cool. Bright red here instead of going with the purple flowers. I went with the red roses and stuff, and the red nether vines, I think, are always so bright and punctuated. Even the blue is like super bright, right? Anyway, so that's gonna about wrap it up for today. I think we're gonna have to do this. We're just gonna have to, because I got to go into spectator mode so we can actually get like a nice view of this. This is totally cheating, but I can't, doing it with the flying around, we never get to really look at anything from a good perspective. But yeah, that's a good roof line right there, right? Yeah, cute little angled roof. First time I've ever made something like that. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I dig it. I think I got to get rid of more of these trees out in here and stuff and kind of set things apart. I mean, can't even hardly see the cartographer's house back in there because of the tree covers. But yeah, this area is starting to look pretty cool, right? It's getting populated. Things are going on. Yeah, and then on top of that, we have those awesome trades with our villager, our villager crazy librarian up in there with his trade. So I did let him go up in there, and he found his way up. I don't know what, there's no decor in here, and this crazy tower is just a crazy tower. Like, we can go all the way up to the top, but like it's pretty dilapidated inside as well as outside. So while we can walk all the way up here, there's nothing on these floors. I don't really know what I would use this for. And we get up here and yeah. Oh, these aren't even supposed to be in here. These were in here just to help place those blocks facing the right way, the crimson stem. So anyway, and these are actually visible from the outside. That's why they're there. So I have no idea what we could put up here. Maybe the dragon egg could go up here. I haven't even collected the dragon egg from the end. It's still sitting on top of the end portals. So maybe that would be cool. And then we come back down here, and then the basement. I didn't know what to do with the basement. It's got some empty chests in here, and I don't know. I figured this guy was like experimenting with lots of crazy things, and I don't know why there's armor stands all over, but there are, because he's kind of a nut job. This guy, I really think that. I do honestly believe he's a nut. Like, check him out. He's just crazy. Can he walk off of there? I wondered if he can walk off of that over this gate. I didn't think about that. But yeah, he's got all our cool trades. So Unbreaking, I'm going to move the Unbreaking books over here, and the Fortune 3 books and the Aquafinity books that I already have collected. And they're over there. So, hey, he's got the dragon head up here hanging out with him. Yeah. What's up, buddy? All right. I suppose he needs a name, too. Once we get a bunch of name tags, start naming all these crazy fools. That worked out well. I can watch. Dude, what is happening? Alrighty then. Well, that'll wrap it up for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. I hope this boring episode was not too boring, and well, it is what it is. But I hope you guys have a great week, or a couple of weeks, or however long it is before I get to the next episode. I think the next episode, I think I'm feeling like going and raiding, doing a Bastion raid, or I'd like to do it as a sort of I don't know, like a guerrilla in tactical insertion. I don't know. I want to go in like quiet style and like snipe everything that's in there rather than doing like a frontal attack from the top. I've never raided the Bastion, so it should be pretty fun. And then, yeah, maybe then we'll have, maybe next episode will be an adventure episode. We will see how many times I die in the nether. Yeah. Anyway. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one. And I will see you when I see ya. See ya.